So like, I just finished watching this Tim Pool video where he's talking about Joe Biden and the Democratic Party and how he doesn't really think they're trying to win, but he can't really see like why they're doing that. And I think it's fairly obvious why they are doing the things that they are doing. It's obvious to me that they are not trying to win. If they were trying to win, they would never field Joe Biden as a candidate, right? Obviously, I mean, Joe Biden still has not even given us his VP pick. Why? Because it's uncertain or there's something going on there. But the main point that people aren't focusing on is the mail-in ballots. Like, we know that mail-in ballots have a history of fraud. It's very, very dodgy. People get random ballots sent to their house and they can just fill that out, put whatever they want in there. It's very, very dodgy. I mean, and not only that, it takes a long time to count all the ballots, right? So if there's a mail-in ballot situation, like it's happened well, if there's a mail-in ballot situation, right, we might end up in a situation where the election's on November 9th, but we may not know who the president is until January, February, March, like somewhere in March, April, maybe even potentially. So what do we do in that period of time where they're still quote unquote counting the ballots, right? And then we have to figure out if those ballots are even real or not, right? So there's gonna be all this potentiality for contention, right? Oh, we can say, oh well, we haven't counted all the ballots yet, so we don't know who's the president, or oh well, we don't believe that these votes here were real, right? This is all giving fuel for a fire to attack the democratic system of the United States, because this is going to be they're going to try to use every and all means to destroy this nation, right? So they're going to attack all these things in order to try to get us to fall, right? They need us to fall. So if we do mail-in ballots, right, the situation has already become so polarized in the United States with as far as politics go. It seems like people are either for Trump or against Trump, right? In this election, like Tim Pool said, it's a referendum on Trump, right? Do you like Trump or do you not like Trump? And people are voting whether or not they like Trump. And that is not a democracy. That should not be the way that we hold elections. It should not be, oh, I'm going to vote for this person because I hate that person so much. Like, you're voting based off of hatred. I don't believe we should do that, right? You're not even thinking about the policy. You're just going off of this emotion. And I know that voting inherently is an emotional thing, right? That's why people get so angry when you discuss politics, because they don't really care about the logic or the reason, right? They're it's more emotional. They feel a connection with this person, right? This person, they feel like they stand for them. And how dare you go against my hero, right? Or this person that's supposedly like representing me. It's very, very emotional. And it's not good, because if we can lose track of why we're voting, and we lose track of the principles, then that pretty much means that our principles don't matter, or they weren't very strong, right? So if they can create a situation in which we don't agree upon the result of the election, pretty much the nation will fall, because where do we go from there, right? Who runs the country in the mid time between like us counting the election, the votes? What happens if there's a global event during that period of time? How do we respond? If Trump, if the election is not a peaceful transfer, right? There's mail-in ballots, a lot of fraud, and what ends up happening is that one side says they win, the other side says they won, right? Trump says he won, or even if Trump loses by some chance, which he shouldn't do, right? If Trump does lose, he then can run the chance of saying, well, I'm not going to, and maybe rightfully, if there is intervention, maybe rightfully so, I'm not going to allow the country to be stolen from us, right? And I don't accept that person or Biden, right? But then the same thing can happen on the reverse side, right? If Trump wins, they can say, well, the election was fraudulent anyway. There's fake ballots or whatever. And Joe Biden can say, well, no, we're we're the ones that should be running the country, or whatever, right? There's already been a precedent for not accepting the results of the election. Hillary Clinton did not peacefully allow Trump to win. She campaigned against him and continued to talk about it, to write books about it. Like, that was unprecedented. That hurt United States unity tremendously. So that the president has already been set for at least the Democrats. When they lose, they don't do it gracefully, and in fact, they actually do everything in the power to make it painful. And so, with that being the last election, I can only assume that this one will be even worse. Right? The transfer will be even worse. They'll say, "Oh no, these things happen and blah blah," and we can't do this anymore. We already see like the people rioting in the streets. Who are the guys that are wearing black and burning courthouses? That's not the right doing that. That's the left. And I don't want to get like right versus left. I'm not on either side, but that's the left. So if they don't agree to the transfer of power, they're already in the streets burning courthouses. How easy is it going to be to say, well, we're not going to follow the president anymore. We're going to secede from the United States. We're going to do our own thing. California's already trying to do that, right? And if that happens, and we start to try to split, because one side agrees on these results of the election, while the other states say we agree on these results, right? Now we're going to split because one side's under the control of one person or government, and another side's control of another one. So what happens to our military? Who do they decide to follow? And not only that, what's going to happen outside of the United States while this is all taking place? If we go into a civil war, there's some sort of civil unrest going on that's worse than what's going on now, because they're already struggling to agree to give us $600 for unemployment, right? So people are at home, they're running low on money, they don't have any money. They're going to start to figure out, what do we do for food if the government's not going to give us any food? So they're going to start to go out and protest this, right? This is literally the same thing that's happened in China, and I believe it happened in like Russia. Don't quote me on that, but this same type of scenario has happened previously before a major revolution has happened, right? And I know specifically it happened in China, right? So they will claim that the workers need to revolt, or the proletariat needs to revolt, because they cannot sustain themselves under such a system anymore. It's literally, they literally cannot survive. So the only option they have is to revolt and to tear down that currently oppressive system onto them. If they do that, right, it's not going to be the people overthrowing the system, right? It's going to be secret agents, double agents, what's the name of these guys that they're puppets. So they're gonna infiltrate the popular movements, like they already have, and when they're gonna be the guys saying, we need to revolt, follow us, we know how to do it. And we're gonna see specific individuals, maybe United States government officials, saying, I'm gonna lead the charge, I'm gonna do this, right? Those are the guys that say they're for us, but they're truly actually not. They're part of the oncoming cabal. Their job is to herald us into bringing about that new system that benefits them and their interests. So when these people come and claiming revolt, it's not our revolt, it's their revolt, it's their revolution. And people aren't going to see that, right? But this is how totalitarian regimes instill themselves onto the people. It's not by people agreeing upon this. The Chinese people did not agree to have the Chinese Communist Party placed onto them, right? It got forced onto them, right? And so it cloaks itself as one thing. It portrays itself as being for you, but really it isn't. It's for itself. It's for its own survival. And I believe that whatever comes about from this type of revolution is not going to be for the people. It's going to be for those private interests, the quote-unquote Illuminati. They're going to be the ones profiting, right? And the only difference is that the system before, we were cooperating in it with the capitalists, like we're going to work and everything. We weren't earning any wages. We're getting higher and higher debt, right? And they were getting more and more wealth. Well, late stage capitalism, it gets to the point where we can no longer sustain that because the people working in the system can't live anymore. It's too unattainable for them, right? So what do you do then? You can either choose to reform the system, right? Make it better for the people, but that might take away some of your lifestyle, some of your wealth, some of your power and influence, and so you're not going to want to do that. So what's the solution? Instill a system in place that's even more authoritarian than the previous one, so the people have no choice whatsoever but to accept that system. Right? Now you can in place whatever wages you want. Now you can instill whatever vaccine you want. You can do whatever you want now, and you don't have to worry about public opinion because you have de facto control. You have the police under your control. You have the military under control. You have the media under control. There's no chance of being able to go against the system in place. And I know from my research, I don't know if it's related or not, but I know that the United States has an entire government in place already. It's a secret government. I think it's located on a place called Mount Power or something like that. But there's already an entire government with its own president, its own cabinet, its own Congress. Everything is they already have that. It's just waiting, right? And the point of that government is in the event that the United States government were somehow to fall or collapse, right? Maybe there's complete civil unrest, a state of emergency happens, right? And for some reason, maybe this government gets taken over. That government's job is to take over in place of it, or at least something along that line. I think I could be wrong, but that government is not a democratic government. That president that they have in there, we didn't vote for him, right? We don't even know who his name is, right? It's not democratic. And so if they're in, it has an activation clause, like it can only come in place during a national emergency. I believe Trump already issued a national emergency already, but if there's such a thing as like a civil war, that's definitely a national emergency, right? So then if that happens, right, they can come in and say we're gonna reinstill order. We're coming here to make everything back peaceful, right? That's the catch, right? They're gonna come in. They're gonna wear uniforms that look like police. They're gonna look like military. They're gonna look like that, but they're not gonna be military. They're not gonna be the police. They're gonna look like it, and you're gonna think they're military or police, and so you're gonna blindly follow whatever the hell they say, right? And that's part of the plan. And they're gonna reinstill order, right? They're gonna quell the riots in the street, and when they're done, they're not gonna bring it back to us voting for presidents again. No, that's done. It's gonna be their new system, their new world order, and that's the point. Understand that the Democrats and Republicans, they're the same thing. They want the same thing. They want big government. They want expanding government power. That's what they want. They care about themselves and not the people. They work towards the same end. Whether it's a Democrat or Republican in office, at the end of the day, at the end of their terms, the people are left with less rights, less privileges than before they came to the office. It's never the opposite. They don't come into place, wars don't happen, and we become more free. Pandemics don't happen, and we become more free. It's the opposite. We lose more rights. We lose more privileges each and every time. And they steadily, but incrementally, take away those rights to the point where the end goal is for us to have no rights. But that's not a democratic system, right? That's going to be something else. It's going to be an authoritarian system, I think. But that's why I don't put my faith into any politician. I don't think that Trump is our savior. I don't think that Biden is our savior. I think they're working to the same end. I think they need us to buy into this whole thing, right? They need us to buy into it. They need us to believe that our votes matter when they really don't. Biden knows he's not going to win, and Trump knows he's going to win, right? But they're not going to call. But this is part of the plan, and part of me, I feel like Trump has a better shot of actually being for the people than any of the politicians, but I still don't put faith in him. But just by looking at it, if we're going to look at the bad guy, good guy, they put up Trump to be the bad guy. But maybe he could, there's a slight chance more so than Biden at the very least that he could be actually have a good intent for the country. But even then, when you look at it, he's playing along with the whole global agenda. So I can't really, they're all part of it, and they're going to go along with this system. They're going to go along with the plan, both the Democratic side and the Republican side. They're going along with the plan. Just because if Trump does win, it doesn't mean that we're safe. No, no, no. Like, this is part of the entire plan. And these guys are all just puppets dancing along, doing their role to get us to react and go along with it. Yeah. But yeah, if they can get us to buy into the fear of the coronavirus, if they can get us to agree to mail-in ballots, we are in for a very, very, very troubling time in the United States. That's the plan. That's the point. I think everything rides upon that. I think China is currently in a terrible spot right now. What the attention being brought onto them with the national security law, with them taking over Hong Kong, with their actions in the South China Sea, with the natural disasters in mainland China, with the current Chinese populace becoming even more so aggravated with the Chinese Communist Party, with their response to the coronavirus. We see how they hid everything in China. They covered up the outbreak. Anybody that tried to speak up, they silenced them. They put them in jail, or they disappeared them. They disappeared the doctors that tried to speak up. So all of this came about because of the Chinese Communist Party's choices over there in China. And so the people are becoming very, very angry, right? And so a lot of people are believing that the Chinese Communist Party are, they're not, they knew it before, but now it's becoming very, very apparent that the party, that their government is an active threat to their own life, right? When they're now getting their homes washed over from the flood, and all the Communist Party is giving them is like a quarter. How are you going to live your life for a quarter? They don't care, right? And they're going to realize that. So this is a really difficult spot for the Communist Party, because the people now are, even though they've been brainwashed, they've been heavily conditioned to follow a party line, these type of scenarios can cause them to drift a little bit away from that and potentially even call out into open revolt. Not to mention all the countries around the world now are currently starting to reel back their policies, reel back the influence of China in their governments, in their institutions. There's a lot of people in the Communist Party right now in the inner circle that believe that the party and that Xi Jinping went too far, right? He put them in danger. So they might want to roll that back, or they might want to even press even harder, because the situation could be so dire. And so a lot of people serve to gain a lot if the United States crumbles down. Specifically the Chinese Communist Party, they are I believe heavily involved in this current situation right now, not only in the United States but around the world. And if the United States does fall, if the United States does have something like mail-in ballots, and there's not a peaceful transfer of power, right, that opens up a potential period of time of uncertainty in which things like the South China Sea situation could change, things like the situation in Taiwan could change, because right now we know that China, they feel like they have to act. Right now is a decisive point for them right now, right? Right now, we know they want to get Taiwan now. They want the South China Sea now. If they don't get it now, they might lose their chance, right? Now it's 2020, they have Trump in office. So all the things this is all culminating for an unprecedented situation in the world. This is unprecedented, right? And so this leads me to believe that a lot's riding on this election, right? A lot is riding on this. And the result of this will determine what happens all around the world, I think, potentially. If the election even happens, if it doesn't happen, it still has cataclysmic effects around the world, right? If the United States... So I'm just going to wrap it up there. I've been talking for a while, but we cannot allow mail-in ballots. If we do allow mail-in ballots, the people that want this country to fall, the people that truly hate this country, will do everything in their power to ensure that as much damage and pain can be inflicted on this country. And it will be. It will definitely happen if the mail-in ballot situation is accepted and we allow it to go through. But with that being said, I can continue talking forever about this subject, but I don't want to start rambling. Thank you so much for listening to my little ramble about, I guess, politics. I don't know if I'll be doing this very often, but I just felt like I wanted to explain this situation a little bit. Maybe add a little bit of clarity if I can to what's going on. But thank you. If you liked what you heard, if you didn't like what you heard, leave a like or a dislike, and maybe even leave a comment. Thank you for watching and have a great day.